Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I'm super excited today because we're going to give you the power to succeed. Yeah, truly the power to succeed. And she's got the power. She is Stacey Bulluck. She's the founder and CEO of Power and Resilience. And she is basically a success coach, wants to see you succeed in anything you do, but to give you the power to do that. Stacey, it's great having you back. How you doing?
Doing great. I'm so happy to be back and be able to discuss this subject of power and yeah, get some folks moving, get us moving. I don't just do this just because I can help others do it. It helps me on a daily basis.
Yep. And I just want to say one thing, your audio changed. So I want to make sure people can hear you super clear. It just changed for a split second. We can still hear you.
Okay.
There you go. That's it.
Uh, All right. Awesome. We want to make sure that we can be heard clearly.
Oh, no, you sound great now. Yeah, it was just, we could hear you before, but don't change anything. Don't ever change. Actually, no, change is good. What is power? Like we say, I am power, I have the power. What exactly is power? How do we define that in Stacey's world?
This world, we define the power as, and I looked at it from a physics standpoint as I studied this, and it definitely equates to human beings as well. And it is the ability to put forth the effort and the energy that is needed to succeed. We're using this great word today, succeed. And we all want to do that, but we have to put forth some effort. We have to put forth some energy, or guess what? It's going to lie there dormant.
So how do we do that? Because sometimes, and I'll speak from experience, it's hard to get out of your own way. Sometimes it's a challenge to get motivated to move things forward. How do you get to that point where you can find that energy or know how to do it?
You know what? I'm glad you said that. How do we do it as a people? Sometimes we just don't feel like it. We just don't, I have many days, Steve, of wanting to, after I log off of the computer from work and just get in my recliner and push the remote. And that's all I want to do. But I know that if I do that and that alone, not to say that some days I don't, because some days that is power as well. Power is just simply having control and authority over your own life. And sometimes we need help in doing that. We need somebody to come and say, you can do this. We need somebody to walk through life with us and be a physical demonstration of an affirmation. And our affirmation today is, I am power. But on those days when we don't feel like I am power, what do we do? What do we do? We think about our why. We take ownership for why we're even feeling the way that we feel at that moment. Why am I feeling down? Ask yourself questions. It is healthy to ask yourself questions and delve into why we do what we do. Because sometimes there's an answer there that's extremely simple, meaning that today, guess what? You're being lazy. And be honest with yourself. We have to be honest with ourselves and say, today I'm just sloughing off, or whatever you want to call it.
Slacking off.
But we can't slacking off. Yes, yes. Today I'm a slacker. But we don't want, that's not a habit we want to create.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we have the power to take ownership of who we are, take ownership of our destiny, of our purpose, and know that it's going to take some effort and some energy to get that done. And if we do not put forth the effort and energy, we're going to stay flat-footed or stagnant.
Sometimes it's okay to slack off. I feel that in the spirit of self-care, where a lot of us don't take that time, I don't think it's a bad thing, but when it becomes too often, you're just not moving forward. And all you're going to do is just make yourself feel negative that you haven't moved forward when, you are sitting in the chair and flipping the remote, right?
Exactly. And like you said, there are days, I don't know about you, but I know about me, that I actually on purpose say I'm going to shut everything down and I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to watch this movie that I have had. Is it recorded? How do we say it now? With that new technology,
You're
it's
going
on
to
the
stream.
DVR.
You're going to stream. Maybe you're going to stream. I don't
Yes,
know. Okay.
that part too. And so we have to say today is one of those days.
Yep.
That's power, though. That's taking control of your life and not allowing life situations and circumstances to dictate to us how we go about this thing. We have the ability, the capacity within us. We're born that way. We're wired that way. Now, if you decide to, as we talked about earlier, stay in the mode of slacking, that's not healthy. But yes, it is healthy to take time for yourself. That is a wonderful place for me to be because I get to learn about who I am even more and strengthen myself and build my confidence in who I am because I haven't always been at this point in life, of having this power, of having this control over my life. I was in the military for 18 years for one.
Yeah.
That right there alone, somebody else is going to dictate to you what you do on your days, for 365 days of how many of those you decide to stay in. For me, it was 18, total of 18 years. So it, it took some breaking of some habits too, of having somebody tell you what to do. And sometimes I say to my military brothers and sisters that we have to make sure that we also remain the being. Sometimes some of us, I went in the military almost right out of high school. I'm getting ready to date myself a little bit when I talk about Reaganomics. That was when I went in because I lost my job. And I had a child. I needed to do something, so I joined the military. It was a blessing for me because I stayed in 18 years. That's a long time,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's
By the way,
now
I
it's
just want to say thank you for your service.
oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome.
Yeah. It
No,
it takes
it's
special people. And I just had this conversation with somebody um last night that their soon to be son-in-law just joined the Coast Guard. And you forget of how much you give up, how much freedom you give up so that we have freedom. And I just wanted to share that because she was explaining certain things that, you walk in there with, you bring a pair of underwear and that's about it. And there's no communication, there's no phone calls. He's not, you can, his girlfriend, fiance can write him a letter, but that's about it.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that's at least 2 months. He's disconnected from the world, and not many people can do that. So, but on the other point, with you talking about having the power, I think sometimes you realize when you do take that chill time, maybe a Slack moment, whatever it might be, you realize that you do have choices and you do have power if you want to energize yourself with that. Um, I, I remember last time I powered down, if you will.
Mhm.
That's another way to look at it. Power down. Um, was on Easter. I was in between stops. I was by myself in the car, and I drove to the harbor by the beach, and sat there for like 2 hours. Had some time, and it was like, wow, this was powerful because I never do it. Never take the time. Got a lot of time to think.
You know what? What you just said to me brought back the word to my mind, empowerment,
Hmm.
because I do the same thing. I purposely drive to the beach here in Long Beach and I sit
Mm-hmm.
and I may sit for hours before I know it. Sometimes the sun is setting and I have been there probably about 4 hours just powering down but also at the same time empowering, letting go of some of those things. That's what I feel like I do when I go out there. I go to the ocean and just whatever is seemingly wanting to get in my way and stop me from producing the energy and the effort that I do need to go on my journey, I put it in the ocean.
Yeah.
I just I just let
Yeah.
it go. And it I feel the empowerment from the ocean. This is my place.
I'm the same.
Everybody may not have that, that in their life, and that the ocean. It may be the mountains. It may be the forest. It could be any place that's tranquil, and could be sitting in your backyard, listening to the birds,
Yeah.
or sitting on your stoop and just not taking life too serious at that moment. Oh gosh, empowerment is so, so, so important. It brings us, that's the thing that gets us off the couch or off the recliner and say, okay, I'm good now. I can go back to moving through this journey. When I was driving from Maryland area to California, I said to the person who was riding with me and helping me drive, asked her a question. I said, so are we just not going to go on the journey? Are we just going to stay stagnant right here where we are in this moment, in this state of mind, and just not go on the journey? We have to go on the journey, Steve.
We have to. And you can't be afraid of the journey. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm afraid of the journey. But I had to go on the journey. There was no other choice. So I'm on the journey, and it's okay. But it's interesting when we talk about that word empowerment. I realize that you, me, all of us, we have the power to do it. Maybe previously I didn't think that. Like, you're just going through life, you're doing your day. You have the power to make some changes in your life, and don't be afraid of those. And that's not always, the easiest thing. By the way, I'm the same way when it comes to the beach, the ocean. And some people will say, if you're religious, give it to God. Well, maybe we're giving it to the ocean, whatever it might be, but you're tossing it away. It's not going to bother me anymore. I'm not going to deal with that challenge. Toss it that way, and then move on to something else.
Right.
Yeah, good way to look at it. I can't wait to get my kayak in the water, because that's
Right.
my zen.
I believe that God has given us the ocean for some of us who enjoy that atmosphere. He's given us, I believe, many things we get from a higher state, if I could say it that way,
Mm-hmm.
and helps us to relieve ourselves of the burden that sometimes that this journey can put on us. And we don't want to get to the point where it gets too heavy.
Mm.
And that's when we start to find ourselves diminished in our effort and our energy. We're not diminished in our power. We're diminished in our effort and our energy, because there are a lot of people, and you probably see them just like I do. They get up, they go to work every day. They come home from work. They fix dinner for the kids. They help the kids with homework. But that effort and that energy to go beyond that daily trudge, I'll call it.
Yep.
Meaning that I go to a job, but is this really who I am?
Mm-hmm.
Am I being fulfilled as a being? We are human. We can see that. That's evident. However, the being part is what needs to be. My statement is that it needs to be the gift that you give to the earth. Your being. Who are you? What do you like to do? What are your passions? We talked about one of your other skills that you do on this outside of this, and it's something I'm sure that gives you passion. You kind of lit up when you told me about it.
Well, you know what it is? It's what's your gift? I think we all have gifts, and we need to realize that we do have them, and that's where you feel like you're giving back to people, and that is your passion. But you need to find out your purpose, why you're here. Sometimes in my journeys, I've traveled. I always I always did the same thing, but sometimes like, am I doing the right thing? But I got right back on that road because I realized, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing anyway. Yeah.
And you, you get right back on that road. That's because you know what, when you want to put forth that effort and that energy, I tell people all the time that your passion, this thing is eternal. It doesn't stop. It's going to keep somehow, some way showing up. Now it's up to us whether we want to look at it and say, this is really who I am. This is really what I'm supposed to be doing. Even though it seems far fetched, sometimes I was looking at something earlier today and I was like, wow, I have to tell the people, don't put a death sentence on who you are.
Hmm.
And we do that sometimes by doing something else that somebody else said we should do, but we're miserable at it. I use the story all the time. My own daughter, she got a free ride to medical school. This girl dropped out of school in the second semester. As her mother, I was like, have you lost your mind? You got a free ride.
Mm-hmm.
She said, this is not me. It's not who I am. But now she's one of the best counselors to young women.
Wow.
And she loves it. She loves helping people and seeing them flourish out of bad situations. These young girls come to her program through the city, through the state, and they're taken away from their families and things like that. So, but she loves it, and she also says it's really hard some days, but it still makes her get up in the morning. Makes her want to say, "I'm gonna put down that remote and get up and go do this for these girls."
Well, I will tell you, and God bless her for doing that and realizing it. I will tell you that I went to school for one semester. And I had already been doing what I'm doing, which is basically what I'm doing right now. And I've been doing that since I was 17 and I hadn't stopped. So I felt that that was my thing, just like she felt that that was her thing and that this wasn't, but this was. Sometimes
Mhm.
sometimes sometimes you don't. You got to do a little soul searching. And it doesn't matter, whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, it doesn't even matter. You can still change the direction you're in. There's nothing saying that, even if you're 70 and you still want to do stuff and still, serve people and help people and do something with your life, there's no reason why you can't make a change. Not at all. It's all up in here and realizing what's in here.
Exactly. Exactly. There's no reason why. If you're still breathing,
Right?
and even if you are maybe not as mobile as you used to be,
Sure.
because things tend to change over the years, but when you have a desire, a determination, a persistence about who you are, and when you get to that point, we don't know. I didn't get to that point until I was in my 50s.
Mm.
Prior to that, Stacey was I shouldn't say just a mom, but a mom, a dental hygienist, a military veteran, not a speaker, not an author, not an owner of a power and resilience, not a success coach. Had didn't even think about that until I was put in a situation where I had to figure it out. And I
Hmm.
think we may have talked about that before, but that's that thing on the journey. It's called figure it out. And sometimes it is difficult, but if you empower yourself and surround yourself with the right people,
Yep.
things will begin to line up. Things will begin to become clear in our mind. I always say we have to see in our mind what our heart is saying.
See in our minds with our heart. I get that. Okay. Yeah. And I'm we're on the same page, and it took me time to realize what you're just saying, because I'm on not a career, well, partly, career journey as well, but a different personal direction and things. Um, but yeah, it can be powerful once you take the time to see it. And I never did, because all I did was just work, do my thing. Um,
Mhm.
I call it the treadmill of life. You just get on and you just keep
Mhm.
going. You're moving forward. Well, you're really not moving forward. You're just moving.
So I was gonna say, are we really moving forward or are
Moving
we
forward.
just
Yeah.
moving?
But and I'll just share this because, and I've said this before, but it just makes so much sense to me. When I was changing my journey about a year and a half ago, I spoke to somebody who is very spiritual, very, very in tune. And I said, "Well, you can't believe what's going on." Blah, 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 blah. And he's like, "You knew that was going to happen. You knew the direction you were going to go in, but I wasn't really 100% sure." And he said, "And by the way," and I have the text, I even did a screenshot. He said, "Habit doesn't equal happiness." So if you're just going through life and you're just kind of doing your thing, um, are you really happy? You know, habits aren't always
Are
a
we?
good thing.
Right. Are we? And as like I said, when I speak to former military individuals who come to a point, we get out of the military, they tell us what to eat, they tell us what to wear, they tell us when to be there, they tell us how to get there, they tell everything. And so when you get out, you're like, wait a minute, nobody's telling me anything. Nobody's instructing me which direction to go in here.
Hmm.
Now, all of these years, like I said, was a dental assistant, dental hygienist, office manager in civilian terms, non-commissioned officer in charge for military terms. But am I that person? But should I have been in the dental field? Well, it sparked me to want to help people.
Hmm.
I've always wanted to help people. I grew up, my mom, I always say my mother was taking every stray cat, but the cats were humans.
I love
So
it.
people people were always, they were at our home and they were there staying with us because they had run into a hard time or something. But they would get to the point where they would watch and see what was going on in the household, and then they would get on their feet. And I just enjoyed the watching people elevate and in their mindset. And it's just been a thing with me to always want to pay attention to that. And where did that get lost though? I got lost somewhere, Steve, between getting out of the military and having to start life all over again.
But what's interesting, that you said something that I didn't realize. We have this perception that when people come out of the military, they're rough and rugged. They can do anything. They're prepared for anything. But to your point, Stacey, you've been told during your time in the military what to do, how to do it, when to do it, unless you've elevated past a certain point, I guess, and it turns into more of a career, a true career, as opposed to, there's different aspects of it, but I never thought of that. Like when you get out, it's like, all right, now what do we do? Wow.
Now, yeah, now what do? We can't go around telling people, barking orders, so to speak. That's what I'll say. I've had to be told when I went home sometimes, you're not sergeant here.
Yeah.
It's, in the military, it was a truly a wonderful blessing for me. Although I did end my career early due to an injury in the desert, but it was a blessing. I may not have been on this path if I had not gone on that part of the journey. we don't know why we go on the journey. See, I wouldn't even have come up with that concept that that happens to some of us when we get out. And those of us who get out abruptly, it's really a eye opener, kind of a shocker. Like, well, wait a minute. I was here in this uniform yesterday, and today I'm not.
Right.
And it's literally that fast sometimes. And we have to be able to bounce back. We have to be able to be resilient. And most of us are, most humans are, not just military people, but we have this resilience in us, but sometimes we gotta find it. We gotta go in and look for it. And I coined this little phrase that says, we have the power within us. We sometimes just have to go deep down in and pull hard.
Yeah. It's there. And sometimes there's things in the way. So, lack
Mm.
of confidence, this, whatever, as you try to reach down and pull that power out of you. We have a couple of minutes left. We're going to talk about how you can help people, but I'm kind of curious, and I don't think we should ever look back. Everything is a lesson. But if you were to do something different in your journey, if you were to pick that one thing, like, yeah, I should have done that. What do you think it would be?
Oh man, I've asked myself that question a few times, and
Yeah.
my answer usually is nothing. Because I'm here at this point right now, I am so blessed, so enthusiastic and happy about my life. I sit back sometimes and I go, wow, this is an awesome life. And but if I hadn't gone through some of the things that I went through, those things empowered me. Those struggles, those problems, they empowered me because I had to move beyond them. And that's what I really need people to understand is that we can move beyond the mistakes.
Yep.
Now, if I could say that, I wish I had not made so many mistakes.
Well, there were also learning lessons, and I'm not. I could say the same exact thing, but I reframe it by saying I should have went with my gut,
Yes.
because my gut would have told me, and we're not going to call them mistakes, but your gut would have said, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that. You should do that. And I heard something, and real quick, I want to share this because I always know, how do you know if it's your gut? Like, how do you know if it's the right thing? And somebody said to me, you know what? If it feels light, it's your gut and it's okay. If you're thinking about it and you're feeling a heaviness inside, that's your gut saying it's not okay. So go with the light. The first
Right.
thing you thought of is just like, that feels okay, but I wonder if it's all right. So let me overthink this. Then you have the other thought, and it's kind of heavy, and it's like, then you fight back and forth in your head which one to go through. Um, but that's
That that right there, the fight lets you know I'm going in the wrong direction. We are so much on the same page. I just got to say this too. I know we're getting be out of time here, but what you just said lines up with what I wanted to end with, that we have to find the peace that's in the storm. So when we think about what am I going to do? How am I going to handle this? Find that place of peace, the place that's light in weight, light in direction, given direction, and peace in your heart.
it's so true. And maybe just take a couple of seconds and slack off. That's okay too.
That's okay.
But you know what? While you're slacking off, maybe take those deep breaths and say, what do I want and how am I going to get it? Because
Ex-
that time to think about it.
yes. It's
So
that time to think about it. Yes.
powerandresilience.com is your website. How do people connect with Stacey? How does it work? How do you work with them?
We are right now, we go to the website powerandresilience.com. There's this little flashing thing that'll pop up. You can fill out the contact and it'll come directly to me to start your 15-minute free session. And then we can go over some plans of how you want to move forward and what you think you need to move forward in. And we'll make necessary adjustments in what I consider to be a treatment plan. See, I did bring some stuff over from dental.
I love that. Yeah, you have such a genuine, authentic way about you, and a way of looking at life, and your passion just shines through, and it's refreshing. And by the way, we're way over. Bells and lights are going off. They're telling me shut up. I really don't care. It's all good.
But we got to say this: ABA, always be awesome.
Always be awesome. Yes, absolutely. And you are. And we all have the power. You know what I think?
Thank you. Yes, we do.
Do you remember that song? Came out late 80s, early 90s, CNC Music Factory, and it goes, forgive me for hurting your ears, but I've got the power. You know the one I'm talking about? Exactly.
I have it as a ringtone sometimes.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. I got to do the same thing. Stacey, it's great talking to you, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
All right. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
You too. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. Or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.